You're watching AWB TV.
Coming up on Capital Focus, more vaccine is on the way to Washington, the fight to keep one of our state's most affordable and renewable energy sources, and a check-in with Washington's school superintendent. Capital Focus starts right now.
Welcome to Capital Focus. A closer look at the issues that are most relevant to Washington employers.
Hello, I'm Dave Maston. Welcome to Capital Focus, where we bring you the highlights of this year's legislative session. There's a lot to cover in this week's top news, so let's get going. Washington has more information and more vaccine to fight COVID. Federal officials have released a 3-week schedule for delivery. Over the next 3 weeks, Washington will receive nearly 700,000 doses. This will bring our total number to about 1.9 million vaccine doses so far. There's a new tool to connect Washington students to the employers that need them. AWB showcased the Washington Workforce Portal last week, along with the Tri-City Chamber of Commerce, Washington State University, and Columbia Basin College. The portal is a free online resource where employers and educators can post internship opportunities and find interns. Learn more at washingtonworkforceportal.org. We'll have more on that later in the show. A bill to limit the big unemployment insurance tax increase has been signed by the governor. This is in response to the pandemic and the resulting economic shutdown, which caused historic levels of unemployment and historic payouts from the state's unemployment insurance fund. Employers were facing a massive tax increase to replenish the fund. Tax increases on the average in the neighborhood of 500% per employee, and some employers were going to face increases of over 1,000%. Well, the bill signed by the governor will put some limits on that. The proposal helps employers by spreading out this tax increase over a longer period of time. Employers will still pay more taxes, but now the increase will be on average about 100% more per employee. This is a good start, but there's a lot more to be done. A $2.2 billion COVID-19 relief measure has been sent to the governor's desk. House Bill 1368 passed the House 61-36 and the Senate by a vote of 47-2. The measure includes $240 million for small business assistance grants. The governor is expected to sign the bill, and the State Department of Commerce will administer the grant program. Check out the department's website for more details. Senate Republicans are the first out of the gate in offering a 2-year budget proposal. The $55 billion spending plan includes the federal COVID relief recently sent to the state. In coming weeks, we expect additional budget proposals from the House and Senate Democrats. What makes this first one notable is that it takes the base budget and adds 17% in additional spending in some critical areas, and does it without raising taxes. This new proposal reinforces the fact that legislators should be focusing on economic recovery and getting jobs back. Tax increases won't help that and will slow the recovery. Up next, natural gas is a major energy source for our state, heating our homes and helping us meet our clean energy goals. A bill moving through the legislature puts that all into question. We'll have the latest when we come back.
Employment laws change so often. How do I keep up?
Is my business compliant with ADA guidelines?
How do I protect my intellectual property?
There's rules for performance evaluations.
What are the new safe and sick leave rules?
If there's an accident on site, are we covered?
I can't afford a lawyer. Where can I turn for help?
If you run a business, work in HR, or manage any number of employees, you have questions like these every day. And AWB is here to help you get the answers your business needs. Our popular HR and employment law webinar series is back for 2021. We've assembled some of Washington's best employment law experts to help you navigate the changes and updates to our state's sometimes complex legal landscape. 6 webinars tackle everything from hiring and firing to performance evaluations, non-competes, accident prevention, and so much more, with plenty of time set aside for your questions. Continuing education credits are available. AWB's HR and Employment Law webinar series. Go to awb.org for more information.
Welcome back to Capital Focus. And now, the close-up.
Welcome back. Washington's economy is powered by some of the most affordable and reliable energy in the country. In fact, affordable, reliable energy is what makes our state economy competitive in maintaining and attracting employers and good jobs. Our energy sources include a mix of stable, consistent sources like hydropower, natural gas, and nuclear, as well as critical and growing sources of solar, wind, and biomass. Natural gas is part of that mix and a critical part of that mix, providing 15% of our state's electricity, heating homes and businesses. Now there's a bill that raises cost on consumers and limit their ability to choose how to power their homes. Let's take a look.
A major energy source for Washington families, schools, and businesses is under attack by a new bill working through the legislature. House Bill 1084 would allow unelected agencies to push policies that create hidden costs for consumers. Natural gas provides 15% of our state's electricity. Many Washington families heat their homes with natural gas, and it powers our economy since it's so cost-effective for many manufacturers.
As the natural gas is limited, it definitely would slow down and impact our ability to compete with our competitors around the world in developing our casting technologies.
This legislation puts those manufacturers and the living wage jobs they create in danger.
It's not just on a small scale. It's really across the board how restrictions on natural gas or trying to flip a switch altogether really affect our industry.
People ask me what the worst case scenario is if legislation passes in Washington to restrict access to natural gas for our business. I give them one word. That one word is Idaho. If we don't have access to natural gas in Washington, we cannot distill. It's just that plain simple. It's just not going to be physically possible for us to do it.
Not only is natural gas a critical component of our state's energy portfolio, it is key to meeting the new requirements of Washington's Clean Energy Transformation Act, which passed 2 years ago.
The energy contained within the natural gas molecule is so powerful that it allows us to create the energy in a very compact and clean burning way.
What can we replace that with? Is there anything, that's out there right now that can be put in place, tomorrow or a couple of years from now? I don't see it, not yet.
As our state population continues to grow, we need natural gas to provide cost-effective energy for new homes and consistent power to keep existing employers and welcome new ones.
Don't get in a hurry and worry about pushing for change, so quickly that we can't or won't be able to fulfill the needs of our state.
To learn more, contact me at peterg@awb.org.
Once again, AWB is bringing powerful voices from the front line. Joining us now is AWB's Peter Godlewski. He's our lead and expert on energy policy. Peter, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Dave. It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, on a cold day like we have today, and we know that the energy needs go up, and we know that natural gas plays a more important role in making sure that we keep our houses and our buildings warm.
That's right. On cold days like this, the city of Seattle draws about 30% of its energy load, from natural gas, saving the grid to help power the streetlights and homes and other businesses.
Sounds like we have some legislators that are trying to change that now.
Yes, that is a challenge. The short answer is we think this is the beginning of a push to ban it altogether. Here to help us learn more is Jason Thaxton, Senior Vice President of Energy Resources at Avista, and Dan Kirshner, Executive Director of the Northwest Gas Association. Jason, Dan, welcome to Capital Focus.
Thanks. Great to be here.
Jason, can you talk a little bit about why natural gas is so important to the overall health of the energy system?
Sure, Peter. Thanks for having me here. And natural gas has been an important part of the energy economy for our region and our state for decades. It really supports the economy in two important ways. The first is in the direct use of natural gas, the end use of natural gas. Oftentimes, natural gas is the right fuel for the use and much more efficient and environmentally responsible than other sources. And the second is the way that natural gas generation supports the grid. We already start with a really clean grid, and as we move to a cleaner grid with the addition of wind and solar and other renewables, natural gas generation provides the backstop for these cold days when the wind isn't blowing and the sun isn't shining.
Great, thank you, Jason. So Dan, the state energy strategy creates a path towards full electrification. Can you tell us more what that means for consumers, particularly those in the colder parts of the state?
Well, I think it means a couple of things, Peter. One is it means that the consumer's choice is going to be restricted by policies that work to implement the state energy strategy. I think the other thing it means is it's going to increase costs. In fact, in the state energy strategy document itself, the analysis that they did indicated that an average energy consumer in Washington state will pay an excess of $700 a year more through an electrification plan than they would otherwise.
Thanks, Dan. Jason, what's your take on that?
Well, one thing that we know is as we've talked with our customers in the communities that we serve, they have continually and consistently shared that natural gas is an important part of their usage in their homes and their businesses. And as we at Avista, we have both natural gas customers and electric customers, and we've done some analysis on what full electrification would do to our electric grid. And our calculations are that it would double the grid's usage. It would double the amount of electricity that's consumed by our customers. And that's important to understand because that means we have to double the amount of generation to support those needs, and we have to bulk up the grid to support that increased usage, all of which adds to costs for our customers on the electric side.
So Jason, how is natural gas helping Washington meet our clean energy goals?
Well, as we continue to move toward the legislation that was passed a couple of years and a goal that Avista has to provide our customers with 100% clean electricity by 2045, it's important between now and then in particular, as we add additional renewable generation, clean generation in the form of wind and solar and other resources, to have natural gas generation as a backstop for those days when we can't generate at the wind projects or the solar projects. And it's important also for our customers who use natural gas in their homes and businesses to be able to continue using that natural gas as we move toward a cleaner energy economy.
Thanks, Jason. Dan, we hear a lot about the importance of natural gas for manufacturing in the state. What, if any, are the alternative options for these businesses?
I think there's several manufacturing industries that don't have alternatives, Peter. There's a lot of talk in the legislature today, and has been in the past, that maybe we ought to be eliminating the use of natural gas for homes and businesses across the state, and instead reserve the renewable natural gas that we might be able to bring on the system to those industrial applications like wood and paper products, pulp and paper mills, and wood products, and metal fabrication, and our aerospace industry, which, by the way, uses a lot of natural gas and employs tens of thousands of people. Food processing in Central Washington, for instance, they just don't have alternatives to natural gas for the heat they need for their processes.
And Dan, HB 1084 makes some changes to the statutory language on the natural gas system. Can you speak about why those are so concerning?
Well, one is today, under current statute, the natural gas utility has what's called an obligation to serve. If a customer wants natural gas and the service is available to them, that utility must provide them with that service. One of the changes that House Bill 1084 imposes is that there's no longer an obligation to serve natural gas. The same obligation is shared by an electric utility and a water utility, but this bill strikes natural gas from having that obligation to serve.
Jason, Dan, we're out of time, but thank you so much for joining us today.
Great. Thank you. Thank you.
Dave, back to you.
It sounds like there's more. This has been an issue that's larger than just the bill that we're dealing with this session. And if I heard correctly, it's like this getting rid of natural gas or trying to go in that direction is going to be incredibly expensive. And then we have businesses that this is their only option. And it just, on the outside a little bit, you're working in the legislative arena on this. What's your sense? What do you think is going with this bill? Do you think it has a chance of passing, or what do you think that's going to end up?
So this is a governor's request legislation, so it certainly can't be taken lightly. I think it moves out of the Finance Committee, goes to the House floor, but once then, with the difficulties we're seeing with the legislative session being virtual this year, it's very difficult to tell how far it goes.
Okay, well, I guess we'll have to keep our eye on that.
Absolutely.
Hey, thank you for joining us. Really appreciate the information.
Thank you so much for having me, Dave.
All right. Up next, it's been almost a year since most kids have seen the inside of a classroom. Is change on the horizon? AWB President Chris Johnson talks with State Superintendent Chris Reykdal when we come back.
We can fly where you want to, we can leave your house behind. But if your friends don't mask, and why don't they mask? Well, they won't fly this airline.
You can fly if you want to, 'cause we do safety right. We have air that's clean and disinfectant machines zapping germs like an arcade space fight. And we dance
Do the dance, do the dance.
Everybody wash some hands.
Do the dance, while always wearing a mask. Do the dance, do the dance.
No, seriously, please wash your hands.
Do the dance,
HEPA filters cleaning commence.
Alaska Safety Dance. Alaska Safety Dance. Alaska Safety Dance.
Welcome back. I'm Chris Johnson, President of the Association of Washington Business. We're going to take the next few minutes to focus on education and more specifically, the latest on how and when teachers and students will get back into the classroom. We went straight to the top to get some answers for Washington parents and employers. Joining me now is State Superintendent of Public Instruction, Chris Reykdal, who's serving his second term as Washington's leading educator. Superintendent, welcome into Capitol Focus.
Thanks for having me. Good to see you.
Hey, let's go back to last summer when your office developed and released guidance on how to reopen schools safely. What is the status of schools reopening today?
Yeah, we issued guidance in June. It's a really good health framework that other states have followed. Hand hygiene, cleaning, screening, physical distancing, face coverings. The districts that have used it, many of them all the way back to September, have opened safely. We're monitoring that through regular testing in those schools through a pilot program. Much easier to do in elementary school where you can cohort kids, a little harder in middle and high school, but we've got now well more than half of our districts open, either full or in hybrid to elementary students, and that's growing literally every day. But there are some real challenges getting high schools open at this point.
Will we see students receive the option, do you think, to go back to school full-time this year if they're so inclined? Is that going to be an option, do you think, before the end of the school year's out?
Well, it's still that complexity that frustrates so many people that each district has to decide this. They are the only ones with the legal authority to open their schools, whether it's full in person or hybrid or some other model. So they're all moving that way. Some are taking more time than is comfortable for families for sure, and they're making different choices about that. But there's a real expedition right now. It's going much faster over the last couple of weeks, particularly again in K-5 and in middle school. High school's tough. Those kids act more like adults. They're more mobile. You can't cohort them. They're unfortunately have a disease profile similar to adults. So there's a lot more anxiety around 9 to 12 right now.
Speaking of families, what are you hearing about the challenges of distance learning? I happen to have one of those high school students in my house as well.
Yeah, you and I both are living this real time in our lives and trying to find that balance. It's a mixed bag. I think by and large, families will really prefer to be in person. That's where the better supports are. The socialization, the peer support. But I think what's revealing about the moment and what's going to be enduring is that there is a segment of families who say, I really like this. Whether it's an elementary family who maybe have always thought about homeschool or a different option. High school kids who say, really, I want to work, but I still need to take a couple classes, so this works better. This will forever change us, and most districts will either by themselves or in consortiums create remote learning models for some of their students. But right now, everyone's really anxious, by and large, to get their students back in buildings.
Speaking of struggling to get through the school year, is there a plan to help students that are struggling the most either repeat the grade, think about summer school? How can we help catch students up who maybe have struggled through this period of time?
Yeah, it's ongoing, and right now it's all about educators doing meaningful in-classroom assessments of where students are, who's struggling and why. It's still because of connectivity, which we've addressed almost exclusively, but not totally. A lot of students just don't like the learning modality. So are they struggling because they just don't like that model, or are they really not getting the content? So that evaluation is going on now. There's new federal dollars that are coming, just approved by our legislature, that will help districts to spend very intensive resources beginning this spring into the summer. And really, this is a multi-year question. For some students, you will not make up 9 or 10 months of impact in one summer. So districts need to be thinking about multiple years of interventions for students.
Maybe switching gears here, when will the Get Ready vaccination plan to help our educators really kick into gear?
Yeah, that planning's underway now. We've got a great framework to reach to educators. What we observed in all of this is people get to their phase and they look around and say, well, I still don't know where to go or how to sign up or what my options are for vaccine. We're trying to eliminate that. When educators are eligible by phase, and that's determined by the governor and Department of Health, we want them really ready. So we shrink the amount of time it takes to get educators vaccinated and speed up our reopenings. The rules are very clear. We cannot start the next phase until we're 50% to the current 65 and older phase. So we still think it's probably 5 or 6 weeks away. Again, we have educators getting vaccinated now because they're 65 or older, or they're 50 in multi-generational households. But the big bulk of our staff is probably 5 or 6 weeks away unless the governor makes a change to his plan.
Hey, this past week was a special week for so many school districts across the state as their levies were on the ballot. Anything surprise you from them? What have you heard from school districts across the state?
No, pretty similar results. We're usually 92, 93% pass rate. And February ballots are big for our state. This time it was 87% pass rate. So down a little. The percentage overall of yes vote was down 1 or 2 percentage points. So nothing too surprising. I think families are seeing this in balance. On one hand, they want their kids back. On the other hand, they understand that there's an end to this. We get vaccines, we get kids back in schools. And so they get it. We have a great intelligent electorate here who gets it, but the frustration's real. And in a couple of places who passed it close, typically they pass it with much bigger margins. So it's a message for districts. Parents get to control these levies through their votes, communities do, and they're saying speed up your openings.
If we think about a post-COVID environment, you have been a strong proponent of creating multiple pathways to get young people the hands-on experiential learning opportunities that are so important. We announced earlier in the week a internship workforce portal that I'm going to talk about in the next segment here. Can you talk about just some of that work of, hopefully after getting past COVID, about getting back and talking about preparing students for the jobs of tomorrow?
Yeah, it all connects so beautifully right now. If folks didn't observe how much the economy can come to its knees without a broad array of employees and a broad array of kids finding a passion in the workforce, our higher ed institutions are really struggling. We want them to have a great pipeline. We need lots of baccalaureate degrees, but we need lots of everybody right now, the entire vertical of the economy. So this is just shedding even more light on the fact that we've got to transform the high school system. We cannot have every student going through the exact same system for 4 years. By 10th grade, certainly after 10th grade, they need a lot more options, a lot more career pathways. They need to be able to tailor their courses more specifically to the industry credentials and the industry pathways that they want. We will always produce tremendous pathways for kids to traditional universities, but where this economy comes a little bit short typically is in all those students who need skills and credentials who aren't particularly going to head off to a opportunity. All of that needs to be re-examined, and a fundamental permanent change in the way we think about high school is coming.
Superintendent Reykdal, thanks for joining us today. I really appreciate your partnership and leadership during these challenging times. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Chris.
Now let's take a look at more education news in this week's Problem Solvers.
And now, Washington Problem Solvers, presented by McKay Sposito.
For years before COVID and during COVID, Washington employers have said it can be a challenge to find the right candidates for their job openings. Likewise, many students have difficulty finding the right internship. And now, the AWB Institute, our foundation focused on education and workforce development, have partnered with our higher education community to close the gap. Let's take a quick look.
A convenient new tool is helping to link students and employers in Washington State. At a press conference last week, the AWB Institute announced its Washington Workforce Portal, a one-stop shop for employers, educators, and students to create profiles and post or scan internship opportunities that best align with their needs and interests, all for free. As AWB's Chris Johnson noted, the timing for this launch couldn't be better.
As Washington rebuilds back to a stronger economy, we require a skilled, trained, and educated workforce. This portal offers an opportunity for young people across the state to gain real-world and work-based learning opportunities right here throughout our state.
The portal's 2 pilot programs are taking place in Spokane and the Tri-Cities, thanks to major support from the Tri-City Regional Chamber of Commerce and Greater Spokane Incorporated, along with several area colleges and businesses who can't wait to utilize this tool.
Gaining real-world experience is one of the best ways in which students learn to translate classroom learning into action. We are thrilled to be part of this pilot program to help kickstart this portal effort.
Already, there are 14 institutions and 20 employers signed up on the portal, ready to connect with students who may not have known how to get their foot in the door.
More than 40% of our students are first-generation college students, and they won't always know the right people or be savvy in their ability to network and build contacts. By using this portal to increase the visibility of local internships, we are opening doors of opportunity for them that they may otherwise not have.
To take a look for yourself or create an account, go to washingtonworkforceportal.org.
That's a great story of our private and public sector partners working together. Let's take a quick look at the AWB events calendar. AWB's virtual lobby lunch continues this Thursday. We'll hear from Senator Steve Hobbs about the latest on a transportation package. Later that day, we bring you another installment of our ongoing Vaccine Update webinar series. This one starts at 2 p.m. and runs to 3:30. It takes a look at the legality of mandatory and voluntary vaccination programs. Our popular HR and employment law webinar series continues. This 6-part series is like having a team of top Washington employment law attorneys right there with you. And please note, there are continuing education credits for the webinars. Tonight, we close with some great news about manufacturers solving environmental issues. Our very own aerospace manufacturer, the Boeing Company, has achieved a major milestone: net zero carbon emissions at their manufacturing and work sites. Boeing accomplished this by expanding conservation and renewable energy use and by using responsible offsets for the remaining greenhouse gases. That's great news for Washington, for one of our leading employers and the Washingtonians who go to work at Boeing facilities every day. This is AWB's Capital Focus. I'm Dave Maston signing off. Be safe, be smart. I'll see you next week.
Thanks for watching AWB TV.